Hey folks, my name is Jared Mannanen, and I'd like to welcome you to my monthly newsletter. At the beginning of each month, I publish a newsletter filled with photos, videos, artwork, links to my other projects, and an essay that I hope will provide food for thought and a starting point for meaningful conversation. These newsletters essentially allow me to compile all of the work I produced during the past month and share it in a convenient location. Keep in mind, however, that these video versions of my newsletters have been modified from their original format. And although I've been publishing my monthly newsletter since 2017, I've only started producing them in this video format since 2022. So if you want to read any of my previous newsletters, visit jaredmannanen.com. Thoughts about staying put and building a life. September includes two important dates for me. The first is my birthday, and the second is my anniversary of moving to Lake Tahoe. At this point in my life, I find that the latter feels like the more important milestone. This is probably because prior to arriving in Tahoe, I moved around a lot, so staying in one place for 17 years is definitely a record for me. These twin anniversaries provide reason enough to spend a moment each fall to take inventory of my life. During this period of reflection, I not only contemplate the fact that I'm getting older, but also this idea of living in one place and building for the long term. Reflection can be a tricky thing though, especially if you stick around one location for an extended period of time. I say this because it's so easy to get wrapped up in all of the external changes that have occurred during your stay. In some respects, you could call it the locals syndrome. If I really wanted to let the inner local in me manifest, for example, I could chew your ear off all day long about the increased development and tourism here in Tahoe, which has led to the adverse transformation of our neighborhoods as we march toward gentrification. I could list all of the businesses that have come and gone in the past 17 years, or I could lament the unpredictable weather patterns, lack of a consistent Sierra Nevada snowpack, and increased frequency of wildfire smoke in the Tahoe Basin every summer. And that's just for starters, mind you. But I don't want to be that old curmudgeon yelling, "Back in my day," at anyone who will listen. The world population has skyrocketed from 4 billion people to nearly 8 billion just in the last 48 years, i.e., during my lifetime. There's not a single place on Earth that hasn't dramatically changed during this time, so pointing out the differences between now and then complaining about them, just isn't helpful to anyone. Another pitfall of reflecting upon your life is that you can find yourself swallowed by regret once all of those what ifs and what could have beens and should have beens start to rear their ugly heads. For example, I could waste a lot of time and energy mentally cataloging all of the poor decisions that I've made or opportunities that I've squandered over the years. Or I could list every project or goal that I neglected or failed to complete. If I wanted to dive even deeper into that hole of despair, I could dwell on the various relationships, friendships, and romantic interests that ultimately fell by the wayside. Pay no mind to the fact that there are a million normal reasons that relationships often don't last. When you start to add them up, though, it can feel overwhelming. Hindsight is always 20/20, yet never worth humoring for very long because it's all just fantasy land. Of course, this doesn't mean that we can't learn from the past or shouldn't enjoy reminiscing about our personal histories. We just need to guard against dwelling in the past for too long, lest we become trapped in our memories and unable to see our present situation. The bottom line is that we can't afford to become mired in thinking only about what's behind us if we're to move forward in life. Everything changes whether we like it or not. Life carries on with or without us, for better and worse, period. So when I reflect upon my life, instead of focusing on those external factors that I can't control or the bad decisions that I can't take back, I choose to consider the changes that have occurred within myself. For example, have I become more compassionate or cruel? Have I embraced forgiveness or have I doubled down on old grudges? Am I cultivating healthy relationships in order to build something meaningful and to ease the burden and share the load? Or am I exploiting those relationships so that I can gain some sort of advantage in life? Am I learning new skills and finding alternative solutions to solving old problems? Or is the way we've always done it good enough? Am I listening to points of view other than my own with an open mind? Or do I only listen to the opposing argument so that I have more ammunition to use against my adversaries? Am I contributing enough, whether that be time, skills, or money, to the things that are most important to me? Or do I take them for granted because they're somebody else's responsibility and I'm just here to have fun? Probably the most important question that I ask myself, however, is whether or not I've become complacent, and if I have, to what degree. Complacency is the most challenging mental trap to defend against whenever we engage in routine. In my opinion, complacency is the natural progression or direct result of routine. And for better or worse, routine plays a greater role in our lives the longer we remain in a place or in a career. That's not to say that routine is inherently bad. In fact, routine enables us to manage our day-to-day lives and activities. Without it, at some point, we're going to fall behind and miss our deadlines, appointments, and commitments. The consequences of such errors can range from a minor irritation, people waiting on you, to a catastrophic failure, loss of your job or worse. So, routines are necessary. They also provide a time constraint or framework from which we can operate. Knowing how much time we have to complete a task helps us to manage our time more wisely than, say, having all the time in the world. In the latter case, we tend to put those tasks off until the bitter end because, hey, we got plenty of time. But the downfall of too much routine is that our lives become reduced to a series of pre-established patterns of behavior. Routine. We drive the same route at the same time of the day to the same job where we perform the same work with the same coworkers. Then, when the workday is complete, we reverse the order of that routine so that we can arrive at home in time to begin our evening routine. The further we become entrenched in a long-term lifestyle, the more difficult it becomes to avoid succumbing to a life of complacency. So we need to be consciously searching for inspiration and meaning every day. If we don't make it a habit to reinvent the way we see the world around us by periodically mixing up our routine, everything eventually just becomes wallpaper. I know it sounds ridiculous that Tahoe could ever be reduced to the likes of wallpaper. However, living anywhere for 17 years will challenge even the most enthusiastic of cheerleaders to keep their spirits up after performing the same routine year after year. I'm no exception. There have been plenty of times over the years that I've just put my head down and did what I needed to do to get through the day. I don't regret this behavior. At the same time, I don't want it to be the norm. This is why I participate in activities such as the Bird and Wildflower Big Ears, as well as becoming involved with local historical and educational organizations. They encourage me to learn about unique aspects of Lake Tahoe, for example, which then helps me to see the place from those new perspectives. So as I reflect upon turning 48 and celebrating my 17th year of living here at Lake Tahoe, I have to admit that I like where my life is going. I also have to express my gratitude for you, because without your friendship and support, my life wouldn't be nearly as fulfilling. Okay, folks, we've reached the end of this presentation, so I thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If so, please hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you have any feedback or questions, post it in the comment section below. If you want to read previous newsletters, visit jaredmananin.com, and then check out my backcountry blog, TahoeTrailGuide.com, where I offer information about hiking, backpacking, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing at Lake Tahoe. I also write general and how-to articles about those activities, as well as informative articles about Sierra Nevada, flora and fauna, and the local history of Lake Tahoe. Thanks again, and take care, everyone.